Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here with me. Everybody's just been so wonderful during this time. I've felt so blessed to have a family and a community. All of you is my family and my community. You know, when you're raised in a toxic family or a family that's a little, dysregulated, there's this sense of emotional isolation, and you have to work kind of hard to create families and communities around you and to really reach out and become part of that bigger web around the world. And when you are an empath who is in a narcissistic relationship, it's such a gift when you're able to start breaking free from that isolation and start to realize that you're part of something much bigger than you, a community that's right there with you, and that you're not supposed to do this alone. None of us are. And that's definitely speaking to what's been going on with me lately. Thanks, everybody, for. So the procedure went well, and I'll be back at the hospital today. So, in order to pick my husband up, so that's going well. No news about my dad, so no news is good news. Last we talked, he was in good spirits, and it could be because they've got him on good pain medication. So I just wanted to give you guys that update and let you into my life a little bit, because community is the thing that moves us forward. So I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and a shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women through the transitions in their life, especially if they are codependent in codependent narcissistic relationships, if they need to break the trauma bond that they have with a narcissist, if they're looking to move on and actually have healthy, good relationships, and not feel trapped or stuck, going nowhere in their own inner torment, your own inner hell. All of my life, I've woken up every morning and I had to work through this anger. And the anger showed up in a wide variety of ways. It showed up in stomach problems, it showed up in headaches, it showed up in congestion, it showed up in anxiety, stress in my muscles, tension. It showed up in a wide variety of physical ways. And I learned how to manage it. You finally learn, oh, this is related to hydration. Oh, this is related to blood sugar. Oh, okay. If we work on these things, it'll make it easier. If you take a little bit of ginger before bed, everything digests better. You learn all these body hacks, right? But one of the things that they don't talk about is the body hacks for emotions, the body hacks for the things that you're feeling that have kept you trapped in that feeling of anger, in that feeling of overwhelm and frustration. Um, and science is finally catching up to that and giving you great tools. So here's your brain on a narcissist. So if you're raised in a family that has disorder or dysfunction, maybe divorce, maybe fighting, maybe trauma, maybe death, and most of us have something like that. And if we weren't at the time when small traumas, they could be small traumas, like a memory you have. I have a memory of being, in school and not being able to eat milk and wheat and soybean. I had all these allergies. And birthdays would come and people would bring ice cream cakes and they bring all this other stuff. And there's nothing for me. These are memories which can have an impact. And this is how it works. So when something happens that you feel out of control over, that you feel helpless, it happens unexpectedly, and you don't have an adult. If you're a kid, if you don't have an adult or someone to help you process through the emotions and feelings, who know the tools, who know how to do it, who've got all that stuff that you've spent your life collecting, if you don't have someone to help you through those feelings, then you're pretty much you're traumatized. It's considered a trauma. So what is trauma? So when that happens, what happens is our body goes into a stress response, as if we're being chased by a lion, right? And those stress hormones, they create a trigger in your brain. And it's almost as if if you're not in a place, if you're not in a safe place to process through what happened, either because your brain isn't developed enough, maybe you were in the womb, maybe it's birth trauma, maybe it's stuff that happened before you were verbal. You know, lots of things happen to us which are traumatic, which we don't understand and we can't process through, and they create a trauma trigger in our brain. That stress, which is that trauma trigger, those hormones, they almost put a sign on that memory that says, you know what, do not disturb, come back later. So it actually compartmentalizes part of your brain. If you've got a stress hormone or a bookmark in your brain from a trauma that happened, it creates a veil, a wall. That's where those words veils and walls come from and all your spiritual healing work. It's the stress hormones from a suppressed emotion when you felt helpless and you didn't have support to process through that stress hormone. It creates what we call a veil or a wall, or being the child of a librarian, I call it a bookmark. And it puts that sign on that says, come back later. Do not disturb, come back later. And then every time we start to get close to that door with the sign, anytime something reminds us of that door with the sign, which has a memory behind it, behind that door is a memory. And in the memory is good stuff and bad stuff. There's the scary stuff, but then there's also the good stuff that happened too. As I've done my work through my life, surprisingly, I remembered so many more things, so many good things about my life that I couldn't remember as long as the door was closed and the sign was on that said, do not disturb. And then every time you pass that door, you'd feel this radiating, pain from it. And walk by as fast as you can and ignore it or protect it in some way. Okay. And then every time something reminded you of that, you would take that thing, that little memory that you just had, and you'd throw it behind the door and then you'd run away. And over time, you accumulated a lot of memories in this closet. But it's not just one closet. These veils, these walls, these bookmarks then serve to compartmentalize different parts of your brain. Let's say you've got 19 different parts of your brain. 19 closet doors with big signs that say do not disturb. And as life went by, you became smaller and smaller. There were fewer and fewer things you could actually deal with because they felt so strong, so powerful. And it's this bookmark, it's this veil, it's this wall that gets in the way. And until now, we haven't known how to open these doors safely. Now, some people have tried all sorts of things. They've gone to ayahuasca, they've gone to, they've gone to mushrooms, psilocybin, they've gone to therapy, they've gone to hypnosis, all of those things. But here's the trick. If your stress hormone, if that bookmark isn't being triggered, you can't access it. You're fine. You're just walking through life saying, oh, look at those closed doors. You're not even looking at that. You're looking at something else. You're ignoring the fact that you have all these compartments in your brain that are disassociated, that are disconnected, that are not integrated with the rest of yourself. So in actuality, if you remember the movie Sybil, that's what's happening to you. Every time you received a trauma, something that was unexpected, you felt helpless, and you didn't have a chance to process through and release those stress hormones like a gazelle would after being chased by a lion. A gazelle will shake and get all those stress hormones off your system. We're taught to ignore them. And when we ignore them, they become those walls and those veils. So the key isn't all the tools that you've been learning, from Reiki to hands-on healing to essential oils to meditation. Those are actually a lot of the tools that you need, plus a few more, because those take a long time. In crises or in different parts of your psyche, it's not just so easy. It can take decades to break through using therapy or meditation, because you have to get through all of this stuff on the front end, all these judgments and beliefs and insecurities and time, and you have to find the time, and you have to have the right space, and it feels like a nightmare. You have to get a lot of things in place. But there are other tools which work just as effectively and work just as quickly. And if you give yourself time with them every day, you can start cleaning these things up. So you've got all these walls, and how do you get rid of the walls? You get rid of the walls when you're activated. When you're stressed out, when you're looking at this door and it says do not disturb and you're thinking, oh no, this is terrible. This is terrible. When you're thinking that, you're in your fight or flight, you're activated and your brain is disjointed. Everybody's trying to communicate in your brain, but it's all in a different rhythm. It's like a band of drummers who are all playing different tunes. That's what's happening in your brain. They're all playing their own song. And if you've got 19, 20 songs going on in your head, you're going to be confused. You're going to be overwhelmed. What's supposed to happen is all these parts of your brain are supposed to work in harmony. They're supposed to work synchronistically. They're supposed to work when you look at the brain waves from all the different areas of your brain, they're supposed to look exactly the same. They're not supposed to be one over here in the key of A and one over here in a B flat and one over here, Lord knows what they're doing. You know, that's the crazy kid who wants to be a pig. You know, so when all of them are like a kindergarten class with their own egos and their own thing in your brain, in your nervous system, you're going to feel crazy. It's called dysregulation. It means you are in fight or flight and your brain is not talking to each other and it's not integrated. Now, most people stay in fight or flight for a very long time because they don't know how to get out of it. It becomes a pattern of being, of living constantly in fight or flight or constantly on edge. And they haven't worked on the physical things. They haven't worked on getting these walls down and they don't know how and they don't think they can. And so this is just who they are. This is the personality that they've adopted. But you don't have to be that way. You don't have to feel crazy because, now I talked about timing earlier. Timing is key. If you use your tools, including some emergency tools that work in 60 seconds or less, and if you use them together, if you use them not piecemeal, but almost layered, you start to get rid of these veils. You start to get rid of these walls. You start to get rid of the trauma that keeps you disjointed, that keeps you feeling like you've got, you know, an orchestra in your head and nobody knows how to play their instruments. So when you are able to have therapy at just the right time while you're triggered, oh, it's super effective. If you're able to listen to brainwave entrainment music right when you're triggered, it's going to be effective. If you're able to do your yoga right when you're triggered, it'll be effective. If you're able to go walk on the beach right when you're triggered, it'll be effective. But as I said, the problem is when we're triggered, it's not always good timing. That's where these emergency tools come in. And that's where also doing self-care every day. We're trying to do self-care several times a week where you allow yourself to process through these things. It'll start to make you feel a lot more peaceful, a lot more calm, a lot more centered, a lot more functional, a lot more able to handle things. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked about how, there's a lot going on in my life right now. That's because we're always going through new transitions. We're always going through new changes. And I'm in a position where I have to reflect upon my family. You know, the roles are changing with my parents. I'm becoming, more of someone who's standing up. The person who is taking the lead in the relationship is starting to change. It's changing to my sisters. I'm also starting to get older. People are starting to have health problems in my life. And I work with a lot of women who have trauma. So, of course, my stuff is always coming up. This doesn't change. Things that happen, which are scary and unexpected, happen all the time. But you have to learn how to process through them so that they don't trap you for forever, like the decades that your childhood stuff has. So when you do your self-care tools, let's say you go for a walk on the beach while you're in the middle of a trigger. This is what it does. It takes you from your sympathetic triggered nervous system, the one that's the gazelle running from the lion, and it flips it into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the gazelle that's just escaped the lion and now is in the middle of its own herd. And it shakes with adrenaline. It gets all that adrenaline off of its system and it shakes. It processes through it. So, you've been living the life of a gazelle that's constantly on the run. But now you're an adult and you need to start processing through the traumas that you have backlogs on, those closets, those compartments. You need to start integrating them, getting your brain all in sync, getting those walls and those veils down. And when you flip from your sympathetic, oh no, to your parasympathetic, which is after you've been walking on the beach for 20, 30 minutes, and you go, okay, I can handle this. This is okay. It actually flips your nervous system, and it sends a little stream of chemicals through that door. It takes off the hinges, it opens up the door, it knocks down the wall. It's like a home remodel. It gets rid of those veils and those walls that have been in your way. And it's interesting because the main thing that will flip you from sympathetic to parasympathetic is surrender. When you surrender, it allows your brain to go into a different brainwave pattern, because stress is a different brainwave pattern than calm, centered, integrated. And when you feel calm and centered and integrated, when you feel like you're in a flow, that's when things work out. That's when synchronicities happen. That's when relationships go well. That's when you come up with solutions. That's when you're innovative. That's when you have no problem standing up for yourself. So you need to put down these walls and veils. And the way you do it is not through endless years of therapy. It's not through endless Reiki sessions. It's about using a good tool right when you need it in order to take that wall down so you can integrate that compartment in your brain that's, playing its own rhythm, and get it in rhythm with the rest of you. It doesn't go away. It just now becomes part of the whole. You feel whole. You feel integrated. You feel more one with yourself, and you feel more one with the world around you. This is absolutely possible. And the only thing getting in the way is you using your right tools at the right time in the right way. You're absolutely prepared, and getting some help around that and support around that, feeling part of a community and a family, being part of our coaching program, working with me one-on-one, that gives you the support that you need. So someone can say, okay, let's do this tool now. Let's do this together. You're not alone. You don't have to walk this journey alone. And we can start to take down those walls and those veils, and your brain and your body can start working in synchronistically and in harmony. And you'll start to see that your life changes and how you react to life changes, and you'll get out of your fight or flight. So that is your brain on a narcissist, because a narcissist finds every single one of those doors, and they're constantly knocking on them and kicking on them and threatening them on the other side and pounding on the door, saying, let me in, let me in. It's like Rocky with Adrian. It's the same sort of thing. That's what a narcissist does. They're constantly trying to break through those barriers, and they do it in very nasty, aggressive ways, and they kick the door in. Well, you don't have to wait for a narcissist to kick the door in. You really don't. You don't have to wait for a narcissist to push every button you have in order for you to become integrated and whole and connected and be able to stand up to a narcissist and say, you know what, that's yours. It's not mine. It's okay. It's okay. And be able to be okay. Okay. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it means those doors are constantly being pounded on. You're constantly in a place of fight or flight. You're constantly hearing 20 different messages in your head, and they're all different, and they aren't talking to each other, and they aren't working together, and it's madness. It's a madhouse. And you're able to start taking down those walls, doing some remodeling, doing some demo work, because you're using the right tools at the right time in the right way. There's a lot of science behind this. So if you're more interested in this sort of topic, I would suggest you look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. And there's lots of authors, lots of scientists who have been around for a while, who have made this their passion. Anything from the science of emotions to brain chemistry to trauma research. And this is where all of this is coming out of. And it's all coming together to be like, yes, we're supposed to be whole, integrated human beings, and we're supposed to be in harmony. Our heart brain, our head brain, and our gut brain are supposed to work together. And our head brain is supposed to have all those stresses, all those walls put down so that we can work as a whole within ourselves. Okay. So Candace Pert, also look up her information, great information on the biology of emotions. And Joe Dispenza, he's a wonderful, wonderful scientist who follows up on this stuff. Greg Braden, one of my favorites as well. If you start looking at these things, you'll realize that you aren't trapped and you aren't stuck. And you'll always have things like me, you know, transitions and changes in your life that are happening, but now you'll have the tools to deal with them. And you don't have to wait for a narcissist to kick the door in so that you can process through this stuff. You start dealing with it today, and you can start dealing with it effectively, not feeling like you're just spinning your wheels. Because when you actually work on flipping your brain from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system, what happens is that you heal. You stop feeling so stressed out. You stop feeling so out of control. You stop feeling there's like there's just chaos in your brain and your body, and it starts to work in harmony, and you start to see it clear. Okay, so if you're ready for that, if you're ready to dump your narcissist, if you've been divorced from a narcissist but you don't want to get in a relationship with another one, maybe you're trapped in a relationship with a narcissist and you just want to make it as good as you can. Maybe it's your kid or your parent, or maybe it's your spouse and you really don't want to leave, or it's not time for you to leave. There are ways that you can heal and become whole and become integrated now, and you have all of the information you need on how to do it. You just need a little bit of support and guidance through it, really, and your life will start to get better. All those people that are like, aha, I'm free, my life is better. It's true. A lot of them, they are. But they're not the exciting ones, which are on the front page. All the crazy people are on the front page. The balanced, healthy ones, they're in the background doing the work. They're the ones who are living their lives and enjoying lives to their fullest, like me. They're sorting their way out. They're making a big positive impact on the world, and they aren't, sadly, on the front page of the newspaper. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm looking forward to working with you. So go to inspiremassage.com, check me out, send me a message. It may take me a couple days. As I said, we've been a little bit of chaos here. And let's get you on a great path, because you don't have to do this. You don't have to be here. Okay? You really don't. You don't have to keep stressing out. So I'll talk to you later. I hope you have a great day. I will too. Bye.